Have you ever looked at a massive skyscraper or some complex bridge getting built and just wondered, how on earth do they pull that off without it all descending into complete chaos? Well, that's what we're going to get into, because the answer is actually hiding in a really powerful set of documents.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. If a project gets delayed, or goes way over budget, or there's a big dispute, who's actually on the hook? Is it the owner, the architect, the contractor? The real answer is, well, it depends. And that uncertainty is exactly why every single project needs a very clear rulebook from day one.
You know, it's kind of like a sport. Can you imagine a game without a rulebook that everybody agrees on? It would just be a mess, right? It's the same in construction. You need that single source of truth, that one foundational document that defines what every player's role is, setting all the ground rules before the game even starts. And that foundational document, that essential rulebook, is called the conditions of the contract. Now, this isn't just some other piece of paper you find in a big stack of blueprints. No, you can think of it as the central nervous system for the entire project. So what does that actually mean? Well, it's the official document that lays out the basic rights, the responsibilities, and maybe most importantly, the relationships between all the key players, the owner, the contractor, the architect. It's the official playbook that everyone agrees to follow from the first day right up to the very end. And this quote just nails it. Think about all the paperwork involved in a huge project. This document gets singled out as the one that most clearly spells out who is responsible for what. And in such a high-stakes environment, that level of clarity, it's absolutely crucial. Now, you might think that since every project is unique, these contracts must be written from scratch every single time. But that's not really how it works. For the most part, the industry starts with one of two incredibly common, standardized documents to get the ball rolling. And these are the two heavyweights in the US. You've got the AIA's A201 from the American Institute of Architects and the EJCDC 700 from a group of engineering organizations. Most big projects are going to start with one of these as their foundation because they are so comprehensive and they've been tested over time. Okay, so what's actually in this rulebook? Well, it's this incredibly detailed blueprint for how everyone is supposed to work together. And it tries to cover pretty much every situation you could possibly run into. I mean, just look at this list. It covers the basics, like definitions, but it also gets into the specific responsibilities of the owner, the contractor, and the architect. And it dives into the really nitty-gritty stuff that can cause major headaches, like how do you handle changes in the work? Or what's the exact schedule for payments to the contractor? It even lays out the whole process for dealing with claims and disputes. But of course, no two construction projects are the same. Building a hospital is totally different than building a highway, right? So these standard documents, they're just a starting point. They have to be customized for each specific project. And this is a perfect way to understand how that works. On one side, you have the general conditions. That's your standard template, like that AIA document we just saw. Then, on the other side, you add the supplementary conditions, and these are all the project-specific changes and additions. The whole process is really pretty logical when you break it down. You start with that standard, industry-approved template, then you use the supplementary conditions to tweak, modify, and add any rules that are unique to your project. And when you put them together, that's your final, binding contract that governs everything. So what kind of custom rules are we talking about? Well, it could be anything, really. You might need to define very specific insurance requirements or spell out a really detailed schedule for progress payments. It could also include things that are required by local laws, like making sure you're following certain wage rates or equal opportunity hiring rules. Okay, so we've got this super detailed, totally customized document. But why is getting this right so incredibly important? Well, because it's not just about avoiding arguments. It's about building the very foundation for a successful project. And if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this right here. It is not enough for the lawyers to read the contract. Every single person involved, from the project managers to the owner's reps, has a responsibility to be completely familiar with what it says. You can't just say, "Oh, I didn't know." And here's the payoff. When everyone actually understands their role and follows the rules laid out in that contract, the entire process just works. It becomes smoother, it's more efficient, and there's a lot less conflict. It lets everybody focus on the real goal, which is getting the project built right. So I'll just leave you with this question. The next time you see a massive new building going up, remember that long before the first shovel ever hit the dirt, a completely different kind of foundation was laid. Is that document just a stack of paper? Or is it the invisible structure holding that entire massive effort together?